ECSI fans, do you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire to download the app. Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPClub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPClub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPClub.lv today and get a generous 100% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. Make sure to use code ECSI at sign-up. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPClub.lv. Visit VIPClub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPClub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help.
Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and welcome back. It is time for some baseball. Baseball been very good to us for the last 9 years, and good friend, colleague, Mr. Scott Webb, beam him up, Scotty, live from Tampa. It's been with us for a long time, and it's that time of year where I said makes his debut. He's making his 2024 debut. Him and I have been with Vegas Scoreboard Express. JB, shout out to you. We're on Saturdays and Sundays on AM and FM in Vegas, talking sports there. But Scotty's done a lot of work for us at ECSI, and of course his own website, which you can follow him at Webby20MLB, and we'll do a lot of talk about what he does between sabermetrics, the Webby odds, etc. But today's to talk about the offseason, spring training. Pitchers and catchers have reported. The people still around, the Scott Boras guys that are just killing some of these teams, Mr. Snell, Mr. Montgomery, a few others out there, big name guys that could help a lot of teams, especially my Red Sox, which we'll talk about. But first and foremost, shout out to our new proud sponsor and partnership, WagerWire. If you have not gone to Google Play or wherever you download the app, shame on you. If you're new to our show or WagerWire, it's that logo up in my top right corner. Go download it. It's free. Start keeping track of your bets, your ROI. Download the sportsbook and casinos that are available in your states. I think there's 36 or 37 states up and running now. And if you're looking for some flash cash and want to be a part of the WagerWire experience, send an email to affiliate@wagerwire.com. Zach, Travis, the rest of that team and community will take good care of you. The best in the business. Start following them. And of course, VIPclub.lv. At the checkout window, use ECSI promo code. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you, and they'll take good care of you. So without further ado, the star of this show, the one and only, Mr. Scott E. Webb. Evening, Scotty.
Well, hello, Mr. Jeffrey. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Now, shout out to Mr. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights, and of course, our long time friend and fan, part of the family, Mr. Billy Hewlin at Sports Market Watcher. Scotty, what's new, my brother?
Well, we're down here in sunny Florida. That was all rainy yesterday. We got rain for all of Sunday, all of Saturday. It seems like. I guess they got the Daytona 500 off today, so that's that part of it at least good. But where I live now, we're talking baseball because we're down here right where spring training is. So kind of exciting times. Good to get things rolling. good to hear the crack of the bat and the pop of the mitt. And, you can smell the grass and all the stuff that goes along with baseball. It's awesome.
Yeah, I can smell the rock salt, the foot of snow that's outside, the 35 degrees. Had to walk the pup before we went live. So thank you very much for the reminiscent. I was at the Super Bowl Radio Row in Vegas. It rained 5 of the 7 days, and I think it was a high of 53 or 54. So still couldn't get any sun. I'm jealous as shit, but that is for another story here. We had a few shows leading up to the new year. We a hot stove. The where is Shohei Ohtani going? Of course, to the Dodgers. Where is Yamamoto going? Of course, to the Dodgers. Padres make the trade for Soto to the Yankees, and I was like, what a steal for the Yankees, because they're not going to just let him go after 1 year. And then the more and more I read, the Yankees are stuck. Because whatever offer they offer Soto, they're just going to use that as the floor and say, well, if the Yankees are going to offer us $500 million, we can take that to free agency. Or if the Yankees come froggy and says, hey, we'll give you $600 for 10, 12 years, they'll still go to free agency.
Yeah, I think that's all all those negotiations like that, I think, are part of the game these days and part of the issue with some of these guys that aren't signed yet. You run into the idea that you think the player has the leverage. But I don't think every team can pay a certain amount of dollars for every player. So what ends up happening is that you need to find bidding partners. The idea being is if you don't have these partners, you're going to run into setting the bar. And what does that bar look like? And obviously he's a Yankee today. Maybe he gets in a relationship and he loves what he's doing. He loves the stadium. He loves the fans. He gets all carried away. I'm not saying he's going to get a discount. That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I am suggesting is maybe the Yankees come in with whatever that dollar number is, and that's not the bar anymore. That's like, okay, that's good enough. I'm happy. I'm going to take it because it's a fair offer. I'm not saying it's not a fair offer. You got to offer the guy fair compensation. If somebody's willing to overpay, right? I mean, if they're gonna overpay for a player, I don't think the Yankees are going to be involved and want to do any of that stuff anyway. So, I guess my opinion is that they had to do something. Their offense was very poor. Is a good way to say it. I mean, they were not nearly the Bronx Bombers. So when you think about what they needed to do, they needed to bring in some offense. So Juan Soto is offense. Whether he gets on base via a walk and he's in front of Judge, that's good. Or if he gets on base because he made a base hit, that's good. I think what people think is he's a left-handed hitter, so he's going to pull the ball and hit him over the right field wall. He's not that hitter. He's a spray kind of hitter. He hits the balls in the gaps and does different things. I'm not saying he's not going to hit home runs. I'm just saying he's not that pull guy that's going to go out there and be like Rizzo does, for example. He's not that. So, but the Yankees don't need another Rizzo. They don't need another guy that goes out there and strikes out and then hits the ball out of the ballpark with nobody on base. You don't need that. You need guys on base. You need guys that produce runs. You need guys that get out there so your Judges of the world can clean them up, if that's what you want to call it.
Is this and again, I'm not comparing these guys, but maybe Juan Soto is their Bernie Williams and Paul O'Neill combined for 1 year?
I would say that's probably about accurate, but you got to remember that Paul O'Neill and Bernie Williams, when they were in their heydays, they were very clutch. They did a lot of things at the right time. They were accountable. They were reliable. And when you think about Juan Soto, he's one guy. So he's only going to be able to do so much. And then Aaron Judge is one guy, and he can only do so much. Now, according to data and numbers and different things, both of these guys are, quote, top 5 hitters in the Major League Baseball. So when you have two guys that are top 5 guys in Major League Baseball, theoretically your offense is pretty good. Now, having said that, my opinion, they're still pretty weak on offense. That they don't have enough stuff. If you want to look at the Atlanta Braves, for example, and it's maybe a wrong comparison because they're the best team on offense. They're deep, they're good all the way through the lineup. There's not really a weak link in their whole batting order. You start looking at what the Yankees are going to throw out there, and they have a lot of quote potential, which they've had for all this time. Giancarlo Stanton, a walking zombie, so to speak, when he goes up there. But I'll say this: somebody got a hold of that guy, because I don't know if you've seen him in camp, but that guy is limber. He's flexible. He's not stiff. And he's much, much smaller than he's ever looked that I can remember. He has made the comment that he wants to be a baseball player now, and not this behemoth big guy that hits home runs, because he's trying to find out how he can play. And one of these days when Jason Dominguez gets ready to go for the Yankees, he's not going to have a spot anymore.
I think the Red Sox, who've been sleeping at the wheel the whole off season, quote unquote, Mr. Full Throttle themselves, really messed up here. Because when they made that trade with Verdugo, if I was the GM, I would have been, hey, I know Stanton puts a log jam out there in the outfield and in your batting order. Let's get Stanton back, and you pick up half the salary, we'll pick up the half, and give him a shot at that green monster. And I could do a whole show with you of the do's and don'ts of what the Red Sox have not done. And, the signing of Liam Hendricks, yeehaw, that's only because they're about to move Kenley Jansen back to the Dodgers or wherever he ends up. So it's been a dog and pony show for us so far in the offseason with the Red Sox. But I wanted to talk to you because it's been coming out, especially the last couple of days, the effect of Scott Boras and his guys, and the not signing. Listen, the Hot Stove League used to be that first week in December where they'd lock everyone in the hotels and deals would get done and guys would come running out. We just got this deal. It was exciting time. And then as each year has progressed, it's gotten worse, and worse. This year, I know it was let Shohei fall and then Yamamoto fall, and then the rest of the chips would fall. They haven't fallen, Scotty. What the hell's going on?
Well, I think there was more in play with that market in terms of what do the finances look like for some of these teams. So the first thing that had to be figured out is how much revenue were the baseball teams going to make on their cable packages, because the Bally situation, they hold most of the marketing, most of the TV rights for a lot of these baseball teams. And they filed bankruptcy and different things. So it was kind of like, okay, well, we don't know how much we can spend right away because none of that's finalized. Well, theoretically, most of that stuff is finalized now. They have the ability to go sign players and do whatever they want because they know how much money's in their budgets. So the other problem I think that you ran into here is that there's no bidding wars for these people. I mean, Blake Snell, right, is the best pitcher on the market currently. And, I guess the best way to say it is he's a Cy Young pitcher. But that's just because he won the award. What teams really want to go out there and invest the kind of money that they're looking for? And I'm just going to say it this way. A guy that can only pitch 5 innings and walks 2 guys every inning. I mean, that's what he does. Now, granted, last year he was more often able to get out of those scenarios, but he's pitching under stress. He's pitching under duress, and he pitches 5.12 innings, 5.3 innings, whatever. I mean, he doesn't go deep in games. And I get it. That's the way baseball is today. But if you look at the ones that were successful, the teams that were good, they had pitchers that can go 7-8 innings. Your Phillies, for example, with Wheeler and Nola and those guys, and the Astros with Framber Valdez. I mean, these guys can go deeper, and that's what we're talking about with Blake Snell. Blake Snell has to be that guy. I don't know if that's what the deal is. And then, you got guys like Jordan Montgomery out there. Okay, well, I ran some numbers the other day because, you can look at data in a lot of different ways. So if you look at data for Jordan Montgomery and you think he's a top 10 pitcher or a top 15 pitcher because his WAR was good or because his ERA was good or his FIP number was good or whatever you want to do, I think that's a good, way to look at certain things. But on the same side of that, I tried to match that up with what's called team wins. So a starting pitcher goes out there and they earn a win for whatever they did. If they pitched 5 innings and their team was ahead when he left the game, right? They get a win for that. But what if he guy starts 32 starts? What does his whole team record be when he didn't necessarily get a win, or he left and the game was tied, or whatever? Did he set that team up to win? I think that's a pretty good number to kind of look at sometimes. Jordan Montgomery was under 500. So we're talking about 2 pitchers. So yes, I get Boris is involved. Yes, I get that these guys are out there, but these guys aren't Yamamoto. I mean, these guys aren't a big, they're not Ohtani. So those guys went pretty quick, and they went to the guy team that's going to afford to pay them. So when you talk about what's going on with these guys, I think that you're going to end up with, okay, I think Blake Snell is going to end up signing a shorter term deal for a bigger amount of money. Like, I think he might go, somebody might pay him $30 million for 1 year. They won't necessarily pay him $200 million for however many number of years. And if you think about Jordan Montgomery, I don't think Jordan Montgomery, even though he did pretty good in the playoffs and was battle tested, he don't have the stuff, man. Like, he's hittable. And if he don't put the ball in the right place, he's going to get hit hard and he's going to get roughed up. So he's one of those guys you got to figure out where he can pitch. Can he pitch in the American League East? I don't think so. Those teams are unbelievable right now. So you got to throw hard, and you got to be able to make people swing and miss on bats. And he's not that kind of guy. He's a guy that makes contact and gets out. So, maybe he's a guy that can pitch in the National League Central, for example. I don't know. But if you're a team in the National League Central, who's going to pay for him? So I think when you really think about these markets and kind of how they will evolve and who's in charge and all that stuff, yes, I get it. Boris is Boris, and he's kind of a runs the league, right? But at the same time as that, I think there's mismatches of these players and trying to find homes. I don't think that for Cody Bellinger, for example, but I do think that for these pitchers, because they're just not, like what's the guy's name that signed Sonny Gray? Like Sonny Gray's already signed, went to where he went. So that was good. Get these guys off the market. He was one of the best players available in terms of pitching. Okay, well now you're stuck with these 2 that are left. Or here, where's my list? You've got guys like Mike Clevenger on that list, and you've got guys like Michael Lorenzen on that list. You don't have to sign those guys today. You might not sign those guys until the first month, as long as those guys are warmed up or working out, doing whatever they want to do, because they're fill-ins. They're fill-ins if your guy gets hurt. Like Baltimore. Baltimore's got a Bradish problem, so that's a big blow to them. So I think they might be interested in doing something, but they have depth and they might want something a little different. So they might want to make a trade for a team, and because of the availability that way, as opposed to just signing a free agent.
I was a part of someone asked me, and I'm a big, obviously, I enjoyed watching the Orioles. I enjoy watching them. The youth, they play hard for 9 innings. They don't take many games off, and they're always hanging around. And if you don't put them down early, you look up at the 6th, 7th inning when they take the lead. They had the best back end in the game till they lost one of their star relievers. I use maybe a potential conspiracy theory. Do you think the Orioles had hindsight or news on Bradish, hence the move for Burns?
No, I don't think it worked that way. My opinion on that is that they thought that was the piece they needed. Because if you look at all the other teams in the American League East, the Yankees have Garrett Cole. The Blue Jays, they have Kevin Gausman. The Rays, I don't know who they've got at this point. The Rays just go out there and throw somebody, and they just do good. So when you're trying to be competitive with the best teams in that division, you need an ace, and they didn't have an ace. Like, they don't have a guy that's used to being the number one starter, pitching in big games, having everything on his shoulders. That's why they went and got Burns. So they thought that was that. Then all of a sudden Bradish has this problem, and Bradish was their best pitcher. So in terms of stuff and all that kind of stuff and numbers and all that, but so they might still be a pitcher short. My opinion on the Orioles, though, is that last year they were a bet on, bet over team. But I got to tell you, the numbers say they were a team that had a lot of things go their way. They had a lot of things go right. They had a lot of things fall in the right direction. And I would tell you that doesn't happen a lot of times year after year after year. I'm not going to tell you that it reverses either, but it's one of those things to think about. If you're looking at, totals and team wins for them, they won 100 games last year, but according to a base runs model that kind of looks at it and says, well, this is what your team produced. This is what, you gave up. Where's my number? They should have won 89 games, Jeff. So that's one of those spots where, okay, if you should have won 89 games and say the Toronto Blue Jays should have won 87 games, how much better really are the Orioles than the Blue Jays? Well, the answer is they're not. There's a lot of young kids. There's a lot of youth there. So maybe one of them has a hiccup. Maybe one of them keeps dominating and does even better than they did before. But they need a lot of things to go right, and their bullpen is not what it was a year ago. You're talking about Kimbrel there now. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's not even close to the same level of what they were. So anyway, I think the Orioles are a team that people are going to go out and go, well, Jesus, they won 100 games, right? They won 100 games. And okay, well, they did. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they should have done or that's how strong their team truly is. But a guy like Burns, and you got to remember now, Burns 2 or 3 years ago was almost unhittable. Burns last year, the year before, he's not the same pitcher that he was. That doesn't mean that he's not a bulldog, and it doesn't mean he's not an ace kind of guy. But he's not that guy. So it'll be interesting to see how they do.
We're going to be doing weekly shows here. And then as we get closer to the start of the season, we're going to try to get back maybe to a once a week and then maybe a weekend show. We'll be talking numbers. You'll be giving out picks, lanes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've done a lot of work, Scotty, in the off season. We're already 25 minutes in. I want you to take the next whatever minutes that you need to break down what you're seeing, some pluses, some minuses, individually, divisionally, and then maybe we'll get to the over-unders were already out. Maybe there's a couple things that you see that seem a little mispriced as well. But the stage is yours right now, Scotty.
Sure. Well, my opinion is that looking at it, a lot of this stuff is based off of projected runs that you score and then projected runs that you give up. When you look at what Fangraphs does and you look at what Baseball Perspective does, theoretically, there are two super teams. There's the Atlanta Braves and then the Los Angeles Dodgers. Those two teams are on a different level. We look at things in terms of tiers and tier groups and where things fall. Well, they're tier A, tier 1, tier whatever you want to call it. They're the two best teams. They have they have the opportunity to score runs. They also have the ability to prevent runs through their pitching. So when it comes to those two teams, it's kind of like, okay, well, let's set those two teams off to the side for a minute and then sort of figure out, well, what's the next tier? Well, that's where you're going to run into some difficulty, and it's going to require some I guess, food for thought and some better understanding of what we're trying to do here, because you can look at the Yankees, and the Yankees are projected to be the division winner of the AL East, believe it or not. And you know, you look at the Orioles, you look at teams like the Blue Jays, can throw the Minnesota Twins in there, the Tampa Bay Rays in there. You've got the Houston Astros, you've got the Texas Rangers, you've got the Seattle Mariners, just in the American League. Well, those teams are all projected to be somewhere between, say, I don't know, 85 to 92, 93 wins. Well, that's not very much differentiation between them. And, you know, it's going to be very difficult for someone to go out there and really be able to justify saying this is the favorite in the American League East, or this is the favorite in the American League West. I think you could say that the Minnesota Twins are probably the best team in the American League Central, but you really got to look at the discovery process of really what did the Detroit Tigers do, because they did a lot to try to get better. So I think some of that stuff runs into the problem of dissecting who did what, and part of it is really analyzing. And the best way I can think of to tell you to do this is to think about what teams achieved more than what they should have last year, probably will fall back a little bit this year. What teams kind of underperformed a little bit and should do a little bit better this year. And, you know, maybe that's where you find some of those Yankee teams that maybe they underperformed last year and they're going to get a little better this year. And then you do the same thing in the National League, but the National League is a little different, right? Because you've got the Braves who are dominant, and you've got the Dodgers who are dominant. And, you know, last year the Padres were trying to think they were in the Dodgers league, and they didn't even beat out the Diamondbacks. So when you think about what you need to look at when it comes to the National League, is teams like the Phillies, the Marlins, and I'm not saying the Marlins are in the division, the same league as the Phillies. I'm just saying, like, when you think about tier groups, where do these teams go? Like, are the Phillies that much better than the Marlins? Are the Marlins and the Mets in the same tier group? Where's the Cardinals? You know, the Cardinals finished last season, and they're predicted to be first this year. So why is that? Well, they got a lot of new pitchers. So, you know, they have a whole slew of new starting pitchers there that they went out and signed. So how much better are they? Are they better because they got pitchers, or does their offense need to get better? And, you know, looking at that team, you know, their offense was not as good as it needed to be, because it could be a dominant offense compared to everybody else in that league, but their pitching just fell apart. They just I mean, Adam Wainwright was still pitching games for them, and with a 6 or 7 ERA towards the end of the year, just trying to get his 300th win, whatever it was. So the issues come into is teams like the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks were probably a year early last year, and what do they have this year? Well, they look to be a little bit more improved on offense, which they probably needed, but I'm not so sure their pitching's any better than what it was last year. They don't have the, quote, youthful guys that are going to drive that up. You know, Fat, for example, was the guy that was in the playoffs that, you know, you bet against, and then he goes out and turns in these pretty good games, and then the offense clicks and they win. You know, they're still counting on a couple guys to really, you know, Merrill Kelly. You know, how long is Merrill Kelly going to be able to get the job done and get the results that they're looking for there? So I think that you got to really pay close attention to several things. One, I think injuries are going to determine certain things in the spring that it should create a little differentiation. I would also tell you, you know, like Jeff was talking about team wins and things like that. I think the sports books have learned a lot from some of this stuff, because their numbers are pretty good. When you look at team wins, there's not a lot of differentiation between the sports book and some of the projected systems. That doesn't mean projected systems are right. It doesn't mean sports books are right. It just means that trying to find that spot where there's a big difference where maybe you haven't get an edge on that. I think that I don't want to say those days are totally gone, but I will say that it's kind of far and few between anymore. Some of these gaps are, half a game to 1.5 games. And when you're making wagers, I'm not sure that that's the idea that you want to go with. So when you're thinking about kind of looking at those things, we always talk about bet value. Excuse me. So make sure that, you find that value where you want it. And, sometimes value may look like the Atlanta Braves, or it may look like the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I say that because there's not a whole lot that can go wrong to those teams, even if it's the worst case scenarios that they still don't make the playoffs because they got so much depth and they're that good. Whereas some of these other teams, you can run into those problems. I mean, I think the Houston Astros, for example, are a team that's interesting to me because, Verlander wasn't very good last year. I don't think he's going to be reliable and dependable. His arm already hurts this year coming into the season, and he's 40 years old now. So I don't, you're not going to get the great Justin Verlander. Framber Valdez, in my opinion, was not as good as he was the year before last year. His strikeouts were down, and he's a ground ball guy, 65% ground ball rate, but he wasn't last year. So there's a little, and then they didn't have McCullers, and then, Christian Javier was kind of up and down and in and out and all that stuff. So my opinion basically would be here is that some of this stuff, wait until you have to before you pull the trigger on something, because I think there's a lot of closeness, and I don't think that you can sit there and go, well, this is going to happen for sure. Even when I said, hey, the Minnesota Twins are the best team in the AL Central, the reality is they're a couple of injuries away from not having the best offense. They have the best offense, but at the same time, that doesn't mean a lot because that offense wasn't that good a year ago. Byron Buxton's a key piece in that offense. Quote, he's healthy, but you say that every year and he goes out and gets hurt. Carlos Correa, right? He had plantar fasciitis in his leg or his foot or whatever it was. I don't know where that stuff is. I think it's in your heel. Anyway, he wasn't able to put a lot of weight on. He had one of those years where he just lived through the year. So injuries can really derail what you're doing. And that pitching staff that was dominant for Minnesota last year, not necessarily the same thing this year because they don't have Sonny Gray there anymore. He's not a reliable, dependable guy in that they're going to rely on Pablo Lopez. Not that that's a bad thing to rely on, but man, Pablo Lopez had his stinkers. So it just depends, like I just wish some of these teams would do something about their scenarios. Like the Cleveland Guardians, man, they can't score runs, haven't been able to score runs for years now, but they can pitch. So, but that's not going to threaten the Twins. The Detroit Tigers thought that they were doing some good stuff. Well, they got some young talent there now. The Riley Greens and Torkelsons and those guys can play. The question becomes is, do they mature enough? Do they get good enough to do what the Orioles did? They have an ace pitcher that was hurt a lot of last year, but he's back. Tyreek Skubal is man, he's the real deal. The Casey Mize is not going to be the real deal. So I think a lot of this stuff is going to come out, and don't bet it until you almost have to bet it, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I don't have the greatest suggestions there, but hopefully that's sort of a steering mechanism, because when you start to think about how those tiers work, they're pretty close, man. And there's like the people talk about. I saw a thing from Ben Fox on Twitter. I think that's how he says his name, Ben Fox, and it says, "Oh, hey, the over and under for the season wins on the Oakland A's is like 59 games or whatever." Look, man, I'm going to tell you, they're not the worst team in baseball. They're not. So if you really want to know who the worst, go to Colorado and look what they did. Colorado is the worst team in baseball. But you're going to have, just like at the top, you're going to have 3 or 4 teams battling out to be the worst team in baseball. And it's going to be the Rockies. It's going to be the A's. It's going to be the White Sox, who, holy crap, who knows what they're doing. Some of these teams, the Pirates are going to be not great, but they're going to be, Washington, beautiful example, right? And what's interesting about the Pirates? The Pirates, everybody was all behind, and they did a really good job. We got off to a pretty good start last year. Obviously, that didn't hold up. But the reason it didn't hold up, Jeff, is because they don't have the talent there. And then they don't have the pitching there. They got Mitch Keller, who can pitch, but then they got nothing else. So what do? They go out and they sign all these old veteran guys that are 40 years old to try to go in there and pitch. And then they sign Aroldis Chapman and a couple guys in the back end so that they can only pitch 5 innings and then bring in a relief team. Okay, well, we'll see if that works. I mean, maybe it will. They're not necessarily in the toughest division there. I think Cincinnati has a good chance to be good. That's a team that you might want to watch a little bit, because I think Mr. Green is going to pitch pretty well this season, and I think that there's some new light around that team that feels better, and I think they're going to be a better team too. So that doesn't mean I think they're better than the Cardinals, but I think that they're going to play well.
I think you could say it's February 19th at 7:00, but just right now, I think you could say maybe this year's Reds might be last year's Diamondbacks. How's that sound, Scotty?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think that I was looking at some stuff before we got on the show, and if I pull this up the right way, because I got these windows open so I can do this. I was looking at Fangraphs, and Fangraphs, sorts. I can do it by team, and I can list the team and just the starting pitching in the teams. And I was trying to figure this out. And the Reds, I was kind of surprised. The Reds are the 8th best starting pitching in Major League Baseball, the Cincinnati Reds. And that's Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft. But remember, they have Frankie Montas now, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, right? That's not bad. And then when you start to think about it, they picked up Nick Martinez. Nick Martinez is the guy that came over from, I forget what country he was pitching in. I think it was Mexico, might have been Japan. And he pitched for the Padres and kind of was in and out as a starting guy and a relief guy. But he's playing for this team. That puts them ahead of teams like the Astros. That puts them ahead of the Diamondbacks in terms of pitching. So they need to get a little offense. We talk about this almost every year. These teams got to damn hit the ball. They need some offense, right? So you got teams like the Braves and the Dodgers. They can do all that stuff. They can hit the ball. But the Dodgers look like they got the best starting pitching, and that's because back in January, okay, great, they go and sign Ohtani. Ohtani can't pitch this year, so he's not going to pitch. He's just going to hit. So they had to go sign somebody. So they go out and say, "Oh, well, we'll go get Yamamoto." Well, Yamamoto could be as good as Ohtani. I mean, he's good. And then they bring over Tyler Glasnow. Now, I don't think Tyler Glasnow is overrated. I just think he's an injury-prone guy. So I don't know how that's going to look for them. Then they get Walker Buehler back. They get their former ace back. And then they're counting on James Paxton that they brought in. So I don't know that that's solid, but if they can get what they need and they can get these guys to pitch when they need them to pitch, man, they signed Kershaw, right? Kershaw will be ready to go, but he won't be ready till later on in the season a little bit. The number 2 team on his list is the Phillies. And I was a little surprised, but that's because they got Wheeler and Nola as almost like 1-2 in Major League Baseball. I mean, they're up there. They can pitch. And, they got Taijuan Walker, and then they have Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez, which are the same guys that were there last year. So they didn't really do a whole lot that way. They didn't do a whole lot on the player side either. But they're close all the time. I don't know that you're going to see Schwarber do what Schwarber did last year. He's not going to necessarily bat under 200 and hit 40 home runs. So maybe he has a little better offensive year. Maybe They get a little bit of performance out of some of these other guys that didn't perform last year. So the teams that I'm interested in seeing, like, what are the Brewers going to do now they don't got any pitchers? Like that's what they've always built their thing around. They had Corbin Burns and Woodruff and Freddie Peralta, right? They had guys that could pitch. Okay, well, now Woodruff is injured. He's not going to be able to pitch this year, and Burns is gone. So, oh my goodness, what does that look like? And they're in the same division with the Cubs and the Cardinals, and now the Brewers are going to have to hit. Well, holy crap! And I think the Cubs are in a spot where if they could just put Cody Bellinger back in there, do some different things, get some more offense, that could be a separator for them. So I don't think it's all played out. I think some of these teams are going to make a move that way. So I would be very hesitant to make any kind of wagers today. And I've heard a lot of people doing it already. And I guess the best way for me to say it, they're full of shit. I mean, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because if you have a strong opinion and you really want to take that to the window, do that stuff. But I think the numbers are going to move around a little bit. I think there's going to be some changes. I think some stuff's going to happen, and it always happens with injuries and different things. So be a fun discovery anyway.
Yeah, and I'll close with this. The season ends in baseball November 1st. So unless you do a regular season prop or something, you have to remember that, the regular season ends usually October 1st. So if you have the under-overs and you got to wait, are they graded now? Then you got to sweat the last month because a team has to make up 2 games and something happens where they don't make up the 2 games. Therefore, they didn't play 162 games. And then if you look at, quote unquote, the sports book and their rules, because it's house rules, you'll see that, and I've seen it plenty of times, if a team doesn't play 162 games, it doesn't matter. A good friend, colleague, I think it was 2 years ago, had the under on the Tigers, and they didn't finish the season because they couldn't make up this one game. And the guy had it won with like 3 weeks to go. He had it won, and he didn't grade them the win. So just be careful. Know your house rules. And remember, they're going to be holding your money till the minimum October 1st, if not November 1st. So you don't have to jump in. There's still players that need to be signed. There's still players that are going to get injured before the season starts. As Scotty said very well, there's players that will be coming back mid-season, the Kershaws, et cetera, et cetera. You brought up the Guardians. I'm a big Guardian fan. I'm a huge Tito fan. No Tito this year. They got Shane Bieber, who they talked about trading last year, who's in the final year of his contract. Well, if the Guardians are 15 games out at the All-Star break and the trade deadline, where does Bieber go? Because they're going to want to get some pieces for him and someone else will rent them. So many moving parts. But our goal, myself and Scotty, is to come here at least once a week, if not twice a week, to offer some education with a little entertainment. Scotty will be offering his sabermetrics. He'll be offering his Webby odds. And as always, as we close here, Scotty, tell them where they can find all your work, where they can sign up, and all that good stuff.
Well, I redid my website with hopeful some different strategy. I don't think that there's a good market out there right now to sell picks and all that stuff anymore. I don't think that's the right way to do things. I think the better way to do things is to separate what a pick seller does or a content creator does to what a gambler does, because the idea of a lot of things. I just wrote a little article and stuff just a day or two ago, and I'm going to put some of this stuff like on my website so that people can learn a little bit, and then they can make choices and do different things. So hear me out for 1 second. The idea that I think is necessary to talk about is do you even know what a good bet is? I mean, if someone slapped you in the face and said, this is a good bet, how would you know it was? The truth is is a guy that gambles on the games can tell you if it's good bet or not. And the reason he can tell you that is because every game has a probability of winning. And you need to know what that probability is, and then you need to match that probability to what the odds are. So you want to put that stuff together in such a way that if your odds are in your favor, and then you make bets. If the odds are not in your favor, they're in the favor of the sports book, for example, you pass. So why would you want to make a bad bet? Now, where does that kind of come from, and why does that matter? Well, you have to learn what a good bet is, because guys like me are going to go out here and handicap teams, players, events, games, and we're going to say, oh, this is great because X, Y, and Z, and this is great because of Z, Z, and B, and A, and C, and 1, and 2, and 3, and all this other data malarkey that I do. Oh, it's just so much fun. But if your handicapper isn't what's called an originator, in other words, has the ability to make a line and you trust the line that they make, then they're not worth a grain of salt. And the reason is because it doesn't matter what trend or what system or what they did on last Monday or they do on Tuesday at night and all that stuff, or what they do against right-handed pitchers or left-handed pitchers. You can add up all that stuff. You can't quantify that into a percentage bet, but you can encapsulate that handicap into a line. If you are making you're an originator, you can make your own number. So you can compare that number to the book, and you can compare book to book, and you can then come back and go, holy crap, now I know why these guys make money, is because they only bet when they think they're going to win. Oh, what a rocket scientist idea that is. So think about that for a minute. Don't make bets that lose. Okay, I get it. They're going to lose. They always lose. But you need to make bets that win and only win on a piece of paper. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to go out there and they're going to drop a fly ball. They're going to do this. Man, you've seen it all in baseball, man. A catcher misses a ball and the guy runs from third base and you lose, whatever. So you're going to lose bets. But it's the process in which you went to make those bets. Because if you do it right and you do it 1,000 times or 2,000 times, I guarantee you won't lose. So my website, getting all the way back to that, Jeff, my website is now structured for me to provide information that way. So there's going to be information about sports betting in general, sports betting for baseball. There's going to be different things in there that, for different other purposes. But if you like what you see, if you like what you do, if you like more, and you want to actually see what I bet, I'm going to open that up too. But look, man, I'm just like anybody else. I need to make as much money as I can make. And as that kind of works out, if you want to do that, you can do that too. There's a premium section in there. But there's going to be a lot of stuff on there for free. So I don't know how to say this the right way, so I'm just going to say it in a way that is what it is. I've been watching certain people on the internet. I've been watching certain people on Twitter. I've been watching people that go around and tell you that they've been in this business for 43 years and that they've come from huge, massive cities and they're worth $5 million and they're all this stuff. Man, I'm just going to tell you, when you know these people personally, holy shit, what a crocky that stuff is. I mean, I'm just telling you, man, I fall out of my chair looking at some of this stuff sometimes that these people put on there and they do whatever. Look, I'm not perfect, but holy crap. Just be careful what you do. Be careful who you follow. And worst case scenarios, have fun.
I have two bridges 12 minutes away. It's called the Bourne Bridge and the Sagamore Bridge. You got to get over one of the two bridges to leave Cape Cod to get to Boston, Plymouth, or wherever you want to go. They're up for sale. Anyone interested, you can go to my email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com or send me a DM at EC Sports Invest, and we can negotiate the prices there. So, as always, great. If you're not following Scott, please go over to Twitter at Webby20MLB. Check out his website. Myself and Scotty will be back probably mid to late next week, as I will be on Sports Map Radio next Monday and Tuesday. So we'll look for a Wednesday or Thursday or Friday show there as we get closer. Can't thank everyone for watching. Shout out to Billy, of course. And who else was out here? Someone was out here early on YouTube. Mr. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Thank you all for watching and listening. Tomorrow, myself and Riley will be back around 4:30 for the closing bell. And the same as Wednesday. And then we're going to get some shows together the rest of the week. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. We wish everyone a blessed evening. It's real early in the process, people. Go get your magazines, get your Chandler books, whatever you got to do. Enjoy spring training, make some notes, and just be prepared. Turn on your notifications. Don't miss another show here, and we'll take good care of you. Have a great night, people. We'll see you soon.